The slap echoed across the crowded cafe like a gunshot. A 78-year-old woman's head snapped sideways, her glasses flying, blood appearing on her lip. Her own nephew stood over her wheelchair, his face twisted with rage. "Sign the papers, old woman!" When her Belgian Malinois lunged to protect her, he kicked the dog so hard the animal collapsed, whimpering ribs cracking. He kicked again, and again, forcing her to watch. But this coward didn't notice the quiet man rising from a nearby table. A man with dead, calm eyes. A man who had killed enemies in places that don't exist on maps. A Navy SEAL who was about to deliver justice. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe and follow this story to the very end. Comment your city below so we can see how far this story has traveled. The Texas heat was brutal and unforgiving, the kind that made every breath feel heavy in your lungs. Marcus Cole sat alone at a small outdoor table, his eyes hidden behind cheap sunglasses, his posture deliberately relaxed. He looked like any other tourist killing time in San Antonio's Pearl District. Maybe a construction worker on his day off, maybe just a drifter passing through. Nobody would have guessed the truth. Marcus was 34 years old, built lean and hard from years of training that most civilians couldn't even imagine. His hands wrapped around a sweating glass of iced tea had done things in the dark corners of the world that would never make the news. He was a Navy SEAL, currently on leave, trying to decompress after a mission that had taken something from him he couldn't name. He hadn't come to San Antonio for the Riverwalk or the tourist traps. He'd come for one reason, and that reason was lying in the shade about 40 feet away beside a wheelchair. Titan, the Belgian Malinois, was 11 years old now, his muzzle gray, his movements slower than they'd been when he and Marcus had worked together in Afghanistan. 3 tours, countless missions. The dog had saved Marcus's life twice, maybe 3 times, depending on how you counted. When Marcus's unit rotated out, Titan was reassigned, then retired, then adopted by a Vietnam veteran named Harold Thornton, a man Marcus had never met, but had always intended to thank. Harold died 2 years ago. His widow Eleanor had kept Titan ever since. Marcus had been watching them for 20 minutes. Eleanor Thornton was 78 years old, small and bird-like, but there was steel in her spine. He could see it in the way she held herself, in the way she spoke to the waitress, in the way her hand rested on Titan's head with absolute authority. She was a woman who had buried a husband, raised children, and survived everything life had thrown at her. And Titan, the old warrior, lay beside her wheelchair like a living shield. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest watching them. This was good. This was right. His old partner had found peace, had found a home with someone who loved him. He was about to stand up to walk over and introduce himself when everything changed. The man who stormed into the cafe moved like a thunderstorm. His expensive clothes were rumpled, his dark hair plastered to his forehead with sweat, his eyes wild with something Marcus recognized immediately. Desperation. The most dangerous emotion in the world. "Aunt Eleanor." The voice was high, cracking, stripped of all dignity. Marcus watched the man cross the distance to Eleanor's table in 5 aggressive strides. Titan's head came up. A low growl rumbled from the dog's chest. Eleanor Thornton's face transformed. The peaceful contentment vanished, replaced by something Marcus had seen on the faces of civilians in war zones. Weary resignation. Deep, familiar fear. "Derek," she said quietly. "Not here. Not now." "Don't tell me not here." The man. Derek slammed his palm on the table. The coffee cup jumped. Other customers were looking now, conversations dying mid-sentence. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me? I haven't done anything to you, Derek. You're letting me die." He was leaning over her now, his breath coming fast and ragged. "They're going to kill me. Do you understand? Kill me. And you're sitting here drinking coffee like nothing's wrong." Eleanor's voice remained steady. "I told you 6 months ago. I told you after your father's intervention. I told you after you stole from your mother's jewelry box. The answer is no, Derek. It will always be no." "This isn't like before. It's exactly like before. It's always exactly like before with you." Marcus had risen from his seat without realizing it. He was still 40 feet away, but his body was already moving into operational mode. Threat assessment. Entry angles. Collateral damage potential. The cafe had maybe 15 other customers. Families. Couples. A waitress frozen near the kitchen door. "You don't understand," Derek was saying, his voice dropping to a hiss. "These aren't the kind of people you negotiate with. They don't send letters. They don't file lawsuits. They break bones. They make examples. Then you should have thought about that before you gambled away everything your grandfather left you." Something shifted in Derek's face. The desperation was still there, but now it was mixing with rage. "You self-righteous old witch, sitting on my family's money while I'm being hunted. My father won't take my calls. My mother changed her locks. And you just sit here with your dead husband's dog pretending to be some kind of saint. Harold's money is not your money. It never was. Harold is dead." Derek screamed it. Every person in the cafe was staring now. A mother pulled her young daughter close. A businessman reached for his phone. "He's dead and buried, and he doesn't need it anymore. But I need it right now today, or they're going to what, Derek? Kill you. Maybe that's exactly what you deserve." The slap was so fast, so vicious, that Marcus was still 30 feet away when it happened. Derek's open palm connected with Eleanor's face with a crack that echoed across the cafe. Her glasses flew. Her head snapped to the side. A thin line of blood appeared on her lip, where her teeth had cut the inside of her mouth. For one frozen second, nobody moved. Then Titan launched himself at Derek with a roar that came from somewhere primal, somewhere that remembered Afghanistan and the enemies who had tried to hurt his people. The Belgian Malinois was old, but he was still 60 pounds of muscle and teeth and absolute loyalty. His jaws clamped onto Derek's forearm, and Derek's scream was high and feminine and full of genuine terror. "Get it off! Get it off me!" He was flailing, stumbling backward, dragging Titan with him. The dog's grip was iron. This was what he'd been trained for, what he'd done dozens of times in combat. "Hold the target. Don't let go. Protect." Marcus was running now, but he was still too far. Derek found his footing. His face twisted into something ugly, something inhuman. He drew back his expensive Italian shoe. "I said, get off!" The kick caught Titan in the ribs. The dog yelped a sound that cut through Marcus like a knife, but didn't release. Derek kicked again, and again, and again. Titan finally let go, collapsing onto the ground, his breath coming in shallow, agonizing gasps. "No!" Eleanor was trying to get out of her wheelchair, her frail body shaking, her bloody lip trembling. "Titan! Oh God, please!" Derek turned on her. "Look what you made me do. This is your fault. All of it." He grabbed the wheelchair and shoved hard. Eleanor cried out as she tumbled onto the hot pavement, her thin arms scraping against concrete. "You're going to sign those papers," Derek snarled, standing over her. "You're going to give me what's mine, or I swear to God, I'll—" He never finished the sentence. Marcus Cole had covered the remaining distance in what felt like 2 heartbeats. His hand closed on the back of Derek's neck with the precision of a surgical instrument, fingers finding the exact nerve cluster that would short-circuit the human body's ability to resist. Derek went rigid. Then he went down. "Stay there," Marcus said. His voice was quiet, almost conversational. The most dangerous voice in the world. "Don't move. Don't speak. Don't even think about getting up." Derek was face down on the ground, gasping, his nervous system still trying to reboot from what Marcus had done to it. He managed one word, "Who?" Marcus put his foot on the center of Derek's back, applying just enough pressure to make breathing uncomfortable. "I said don't speak." Then he was kneeling beside Eleanor, his hands gentle as they helped her into a sitting position. "Ma'am, are you hurt? Can you tell me your name?" Her eyes were wide, confused, full of tears. "Titan," she whispered. "Please, my dog." Marcus looked at the Belgian Malinois. Titan was lying on his side, his breathing shallow, his eyes cloudy with pain. But when he saw Marcus, something flickered in those eyes. Recognition. Memory. His tail twitched once. "Hey, old friend," Marcus said softly. "I've got you. I've got both of you." He pulled out his phone and dialed 911. The ambulance arrived first, then the police. Marcus had positioned himself between Eleanor and the rest of the world, a human wall that nobody tried to breach. Derek was still on the ground, his initial fight replaced by sullen silence. The paramedics went to Eleanor first. A young woman named Martinez took her vital signs while her partner brought a gurney. "Ma'am, your blood pressure is elevated. We need to take you in for evaluation." "No," Eleanor's voice was surprisingly firm. "Not without my dog." "Ma'am, I said no. I won't leave him." An animal control officer had arrived, a kind-faced woman in her 40s, who knelt beside Titan with practiced efficiency. 3, maybe 4 broken ribs," she said quietly to Marcus. "He's in shock. We need to get him to the emergency vet now." Marcus nodded. "I'll make sure she follows." The first police officer on scene was a young guy, maybe 25, who looked like he'd never seen anything more violent than a bar fight. He approached Derek with his hand on his taser. "Sir, I'm going to need you to... Do you know who I am?" Derek's voice had recovered some of its arrogance. "I'm Derek Thornton. My father is Raymond Thornton. Call him. He'll clear this up." The young officer hesitated. Marcus saw it immediately, the slight shift in posture, the uncertainty in his eyes. The Thornton name meant something in San Antonio. "Sir, there are witnesses. Witnesses to what? A family disagreement. This is none of your business. This is a private matter." Marcus stepped forward. It stopped being a private matter when he assaulted an elderly woman and committed felony animal cruelty. I witnessed the entire thing. So did everyone else in this cafe. The officer looked at Marcus, then at Derek, then back at Marcus. "And you are Marcus Cole, concerned citizen." He paused. "Also a witness willing to testify." Another squad car pulled up. The officer who stepped out was older, maybe mid-50s, with the weathered face of someone who'd seen everything. His name tag read, Sergeant Mendez. Mendez took in the scene with one long, slow look. The overturned wheelchair, the elderly woman on the gurney, the injured dog being loaded into an animal control vehicle, the well-dressed man still on the ground. "Thornton," he said. It wasn't a question. Derek looked up. "Finally, someone with authority. Get these cuffs off me. Your father isn't here." Mendez's voice was flat. "Get him up, book him. Assault on an elderly person, animal cruelty. We'll sort out the rest downtown." For just a moment, something like hope flickered in Marcus's chest. Maybe the system would work this time. Maybe justice would actually be served. Derek was pulled to his feet. As the young officer led him toward the squad car, he locked eyes with Eleanor, who was still refusing to leave without confirmation that Titan would be cared for. "This isn't over," he said. "You think this changes anything? I'll be out before dinner, and then we'll have a real conversation." "Keep moving," the young officer said, pushing Derek forward. But Marcus had seen the look in Derek's eyes. He'd seen that look before in the faces of insurgents who had nothing left to lose. Derek meant every word. Mendez approached Marcus. "You the one who put him down?" "Yes." "You military—" Marcus considered lying, but something in Mendez's eyes suggested he'd know. "Navy. Currently on leave." Mendez nodded slowly. "Thought so. The way you moved, the way you took control. I did 2 tours in the Army long time ago. I know the look." He pulled out a notepad. "I need a statement." Marcus gave it. Every detail from the moment Derek arrived to the moment he hit the ground. Mendez wrote it all down without comment. "She's refusing transport," one of the paramedics called out. Marcus walked back to the gurney. Eleanor had a pressure bandage on her elbow. Her lip had stopped bleeding, but she was shaking. Not from cold. From something deeper. "Doris," Marcus said, then corrected himself. "Eleanor, Mrs. Thornton." She looked up at him. "You knew Titan's name." "I know him. We served together a long time ago." Her eyes widened. "You're one of Harold's boys." The phrase hit Marcus unexpectedly hard. Harold's boys. The men who had trained with Titan, who had trusted him with their lives. "Yes, ma'am, I am." "He talked about you, all of you. Every night before he died, he'd tell Titan stories about the men who'd taken care of him overseas." Tears were streaming down her face now. "He said Titan was the best soldier he ever knew." "He was. He still is. They're taking him to the emergency vet. I can't," she was struggling to find words. "I can't lose him too. Not like this. Not because of Derek." Marcus made his decision in that moment. It wasn't a tactical choice. It wasn't calculated. It came from somewhere deeper, somewhere that remembered what it meant to protect something worth protecting. "I'll take you to him," he said. "We'll follow the animal control vehicle. I won't leave you alone." "Why?" She was looking at him like he was something impossible. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. I owe Titan everything, and anyone he loves, I love." The emergency vet was a clean, sterile place that smelled like antiseptic and quiet desperation. Marcus had helped Eleanor into a borrowed wheelchair, and now they sat in the waiting room surrounded by the soft sounds of other people's grief. A woman crying over a cat. A teenager holding his father's hand waiting for news about a golden retriever. Marcus had made 2 phone calls while they waited. The first was to cancel his hotel reservation. The second was to a man named James Priest Walker, his teammate. "You need me in San Antonio?" Priest had asked. No questions, no hesitation. That was the SEAL way. "I might. Situation is developing." "I can be there by morning. Stand by, I'll let you know." The vet finally emerged, a tired woman in her 50s with kind eyes and practical shoes. Her expression told Marcus everything before she opened her mouth. "Mrs. Thornton." Eleanor gripped the armrests of her wheelchair. "Yes. Please, tell me. Titan is alive. He's stable. But the damage is severe. 3 broken ribs, one of which punctured his lung. We've inserted a chest tube to drain the fluid. He's on heavy pain medication, and we're monitoring him closely." "Will he live?" The question came out as a whisper. "I won't lie to you. He's old. His body has been through a lot, not just today, but over his lifetime. The next 48 hours are critical. If he makes it through that, his chances improve significantly. Eleanor closed her eyes. Her lips moved silently a prayer. "Can I see him?" she finally asked. "He's sedated, but yes, just for a few minutes." Marcus helped her navigate the wheelchair through the back corridors. They found Titan in a large kennel, hooked up to an IV, a tube emerging from his side. He looked small somehow, diminished. But when he heard Eleanor's voice, his tail gave one weak thump against the mat. "Oh, my brave boy." Eleanor was crying again. "My brave, brave boy. You protected me. You always protect me." She reached through the cage, her thin fingers finding the spot behind his ears. Titan leaned into her touch. Marcus stood back, watching. This was a private moment, a sacred moment, and he had no right to intrude. But he couldn't leave. After 10 minutes, a technician gently suggested they let Titan rest. Eleanor didn't want to go, but Marcus finally convinced her. "He needs to heal," Marcus said. "And so do you. I'm taking you home." And then what Derek will be out by now. He meant what he said. He'll come back. "I know." "So what do we do?" Marcus looked at her, this small, fierce woman who had already lost so much. "We get ready," he said. "And when he comes, I'll be waiting." The ride back to Eleanor's house was quiet. She sat in the passenger seat of Marcus's rental car, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes watching the San Antonio streets slide past like a movie she'd seen too many times. "He wasn't always like this," she said finally. "Who?" "Derek. When he was a boy, he was sweet, shy. He used to help Harold in the garden. He'd spend hours talking to Titan, telling him secrets." She paused. "I don't know when we lost him." "Some people get lost and don't want to be found." "His father was hard on him. Raymond Thornton doesn't believe in kindness, only strength, only winning." She shook her head. "Derek could never be strong enough for Raymond, so he found other ways to feel powerful. Gambling. Women. Drugs, I think, though, no one talks about it." "That doesn't excuse what he did today." "No, it doesn't." She was quiet for a moment. "But it explains it. When you're desperate, when you're afraid, you become capable of things you never imagined." Marcus thought about the things he'd done in combat, the choices made in split seconds that still haunted his dreams. "I understand desperation," he said quietly. They arrived at Eleanor's house, a modest bungalow in a quiet neighborhood. It was well maintained but vulnerable. Low porch, big windows, hedges that provided cover for anyone approaching. Marcus walked the perimeter while Eleanor waited in the car. He checked every entry point, every shadow, every potential hiding spot. "What are you doing?" she asked when he returned. "Making sure we're alone." He helped her inside and did another sweep. The house was clean, no signs of intrusion. "Your locks are inadequate," he said. "I'm calling a locksmith in the morning." "Marcus." She was looking at him with those sharp, knowing eyes. "You don't have to do this. You don't have to stay." "Yes, I do." "Why?" He thought about all the answers he could give her. Duty. Honor. The code that had been beaten into him through years of training. But none of them felt true enough. "Because Titan did it for me," he finally said. "He stood between me and death more times than I can count. He never hesitated. He never asked for anything in return." He met her gaze. "I owe him a debt I can never repay, but I can start by protecting what he loves." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "You're a good man, Marcus Cole." "I try to be." His phone buzzed, a text from Priest. "Found something interesting. Call me when you're clear." "I need to make a call," Marcus said. Will you be okay for a few minutes? She nodded. He stepped outside and dialed Priest. Talk to me. I did some digging, Priest said. His voice was calm, methodical. The voice of a man who lived in data and shadows. Derek Thornton is in deep. He owes money to some very bad people. A guy named Victor Crane runs book on the high-end gambling scene, connected to the Vargas cartel. How deep? 50,000. He's missed 2 payment deadlines. From what I can tell, they've already sent him reminders. Physical reminders. 2 broken fingers last month. The hospital report was quietly buried. Marcus felt the pieces falling into place. So he's not just desperate. He's on a deadline. It gets worse. Crane's people know about the aunt. They know she has money. If Derek can't pay, they might decide to collect directly. The Texas night suddenly felt colder. How fast can you get here? I'm already packing. Wheels up at 0600. I'll be there by lunch. Marcus looked back at the house, at the warm light in the living room, where Eleanor was probably making tea, trying to convince herself that everything would be okay. Make it faster if you can. Done. He ended the call and stood in the darkness for a long moment, thinking about what was coming. Derek was the immediate threat, but Victor Crane was the real danger. And the Thornton family with their money and influence would complicate everything. This wasn't going to be a simple protection detail. This was going to be a war. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Cole. The voice was smooth, cultured, used to giving orders and having them followed. My name is Raymond Thornton. I believe you met my son today. Marcus said nothing. I've been informed of the incident. I want you to know that I've posted Derek's bail. He's been released. Still nothing. I'm calling as a courtesy, Raymond continued. My family has significant resources, significant reach. I'm asking you politely to stay out of our private affairs. Marcus finally spoke. Your son attacked an elderly woman. He tortured a dog. That stopped being private when he did it in public. Mrs. Eleanor Thornton is my brother's widow. She's family. This will be handled internally. Like it was handled the last 3 times Derek got into trouble: DUI in Houston, vandalism in Dallas, assault charges in Austin quietly dropped. A pause. Raymond hadn't expected that. You've been doing research. I'm thorough. Then you know what happens to people who interfere in Thornton family business. Marcus let the silence stretch. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, almost gentle. Mr. Thornton, I've spent the last 12 years in places you've never heard of, doing things that would give you nightmares. I've been shot, stabbed, blown up, and left for dead more times than I can count. I've watched good men die. I've made the hard choices that people like you can't even imagine. He paused. Your money doesn't scare me. Your lawyers don't scare me. Your threats don't scare me. The only thing that scares me is failing the people I've sworn to protect. Another pause. Your son made a mistake today. He hurt someone I care about. If he comes near her again, I will consider that a declaration of intent, and I will respond accordingly. Raymond's voice was ice. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Good night, Mr. Thornton. He ended the call. Inside the house, Eleanor had fallen asleep on the couch, a half-finished cup of tea cooling on the side table. Marcus covered her with a blanket and took up position in the armchair by the window. He didn't sleep. He watched. And he waited. Because he knew with the certainty of a man who had seen too much that this was only the beginning. Marcus heard the car before he saw it. 3:15 in the morning, and an engine was idling somewhere on the street. Not passing through. Waiting. He rose from the armchair without making a sound, moved to the window, and peered through the gap in the curtains. A black sedan sat at the end of Eleanor's driveway. No lights. No movement. Just watching. Marcus memorized the license plate. Then he pulled out his phone and sent it to Priest with a single word, track. The sedan stayed for 11 minutes. Then it drove away, slow and deliberate, like it wanted to be seen. Message received. Eleanor woke at 6, confused, to find herself on the couch with a blanket she didn't remember pulling over herself. Marcus was in the kitchen making coffee. "You stayed all night," she said. "I told you I would." "I didn't believe you." He handed her a cup. "Drink this. We need to talk." She took a sip, her hands still shaky. "About what? About who else is hunting your nephew?" Her face went pale. "What do you mean? Derek owes money to very dangerous people. $50,000. He's already missed 2 payments. They've hurt him once, and they'll hurt him again. But here's the problem." Marcus sat across from her. "If Derek can't pay, they might decide you're the next best option." Eleanor set down her coffee. "I don't understand. I don't have anything to do with his gambling." "You have money. They know that. And desperate men make other men desperate. So what are you saying?" "I'm saying this isn't just about Derek anymore. There's a man named Victor Crane. He runs the kind of operation that doesn't file lawsuits when people don't pay. He makes examples." Eleanor was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Harold always said the world was full of wolves. He said the only defense was to find better wolves to stand with you. Your husband was a smart man. Are you a wolf, Marcus Cole?" He met her eyes. "When I need to be." The locksmith arrived at 8. His name was Gus, a thick-necked man in his 60s who moved with the efficiency of someone who'd done this job 10,000 times. Marcus watched him work, noting how the new deadbolts were military grade, how the strike plates were reinforced steel. "Someone giving you trouble?" Gus asked, not looking up from his work. "Something like that. In my experience, good locks buy you time. They don't solve problems." "I know. That's what I'm for." Gus glanced at him, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, I figured." While Gus finished the front door, Marcus walked the property again. He was looking for blind spots entry points, places where someone could approach without being seen. He found 3. His phone buzzed. Priest. "The plate came back to a rental company," Priest said. "Cash transaction, fake ID. But I pulled the footage from a traffic cam 3 blocks away. 2 men in the car. Both have records. Assault, extortion, armed robbery. They work for Victor Crane." "So they're already watching." "It gets better. I accessed Derek Thornton's phone records. He made 4 calls to the same burner number in the last week. I traced the burner to a bar on the south side. Crane's territory." Marcus processed this. He's been talking to them directly. "Looks like it. My guess he's negotiating, trying to buy time. Probably promising them that the aunt will pay." "She won't." "Then we have a problem." "How fast can you get here?" "I'm wheels down in 3 hours. Already got the equipment we discussed." "Good. Bring everything." Marcus ended the call and walked back inside. Eleanor was standing by the window watching Gus work on the back door. "Who was that?" she asked. "A friend. He's coming to help." "Another one of Harold's boys," Marcus almost smiled. "Something like that." The morning passed in tense silence. Eleanor insisted on calling the veterinary clinic every hour, getting updates on Titan. The news was cautiously optimistic. He'd survived the night. His breathing was stronger, but he wasn't out of danger yet. At 11:30, Eleanor's landline rang. She reached for it, but Marcus got there first. "Let the machine get it." The answering machine clicked. Then a voice filled the room and Eleanor's face went white. "Aunt Eleanor." Derek's voice was different now. Calmer. Colder. Like he'd made a decision and found peace in it. "I know you're there. I know he's there with you. Your soldier friend. He thinks he can protect you, but he can't. Not from what's coming." Marcus was already recording on his phone. "I'm giving you one more chance. Sign the papers. Transfer the money. Do it today, and all of this goes away. I disappear. You never see me again. But if you don't..." A pause. A breath. "You have 72 hours. That's the deadline they gave me. And whatever they do to you, it's on your conscience, not mine." The line went dead. Eleanor sank into a chair. 72 hours. He's trying to scare you. It's working. She looked up at him, and for the first time, Marcus saw something that might have been defeat in her eyes. Maybe I should just give him the money. Maybe it would be easier. No. Why not? It's just money. I could give him the 50,000. I could make this all stop. Marcus knelt in front of her, bringing himself to her eye level. "Listen to me. If you pay, it doesn't stop. It never stops. He'll come back in 6 months, a year. He'll need more. And the next time you won't have anything left to give. And then what? Then he kills me anyway. Not if I can help it." Marcus stood. "We're going to fight this. Not with money. With evidence. With the law. And if the law fails with everything else I know how to do. You make it sound simple. It's not. But it's the only way you walk out of this with your dignity and your life." Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. Then she straightened her spine, and Marcus saw the steel return to her eyes. "Harold would have liked you," she said. "I hope so. He would have told you that you're insane. He probably would have been right." The afternoon brought Priest. He arrived at 2:15, driving a nondescript white van that looked like it belonged to a cleaning company. He was Marcus's age, dark-skinned, with the calm, watchful eyes of a man who had seen everything and was surprised by nothing. Eleanor met him at the door. "You're the friend?" "Yes, ma'am. James Walker. Most people call me Priest." "Why do they call you that?" A ghost of a smile. "Because I hear a lot of confessions, and I always deliver absolution." She looked at Marcus. "I'm not sure if that's comforting or terrifying." "It's both," Marcus said. "That's why he's here." Priest had brought the equipment in the van. 3 high-definition trail cameras with night vision. A digital audio recorder for the phone line. Motion sensors for every door and window. A laptop configured to receive all the feeds in real time. "We're building a case," Priest explained as he unpacked. "Everything Derek does, everything Crane's people do, we document. We create an evidence trail that even the Thornton family can't bury." "And then what?" Eleanor asked. "Then we find the right person to give it to. Someone who can't be bought. Someone who wants to bring down the Thorntons more than they want to protect them." Marcus thought of the new district attorney, Catherine Walsh. An outsider. A reformer. Someone who'd made her reputation taking down powerful people. "I have someone in mind," he said. While Priest installed the equipment, Marcus drove to the veterinary clinic. Titan was awake now, his eyes clearer, his breathing stronger. When Marcus approached the cage, the old dog's tail began to wag. "Hey, buddy." Marcus reached through the bars, his fingers finding the familiar spot behind Titan's ears. "You're tougher than you look, you know that." Titan whined softly, pushing his head against Marcus's hand. "She's safe. Eleanor, I'm watching her. And when you're strong enough, we're going to bring you home." The dog's tail wagged harder. "But right now, I need you to rest. I need you to heal. Can you do that for me?" Titan's eyes met his, and Marcus could have sworn he understood. The same intelligence that had saved lives in Afghanistan was still there, still burning even through the pain and the medication. "Good boy," Marcus whispered. "Good soldier." He stayed for 20 minutes, then drove back to Eleanor's house. The sun was beginning to set, painting the Texas sky in shades of orange and purple. Priest met him at the door. "We have a problem." "What kind?" "The car from last night, it just drove by. Slow. Real slow." Marcus moved to the window. The black sedan was gone, but he could feel its presence like a predator circling. "They're getting bolder." "It gets worse." Priest handed him the laptop. "I pulled the traffic cam footage from the neighborhood. That same car has driven by 6 times in the last 4 hours. And look at this." He pointed to the screen. In the footage, the sedan had stopped at the end of the driveway. A man had gotten out, walked to Eleanor's mailbox, and looked directly at the house for 30 seconds before getting back in the car. "They're casing the place," Marcus said. "Getting ready for something." "How much time do we have?" "Based on the pattern, they'll move tonight or tomorrow night, after dark, when they think she's alone." Marcus looked at Eleanor, who was watching the exchange with growing fear. "She won't be alone," he said. The night came slowly, like it was savoring the anticipation. Eleanor refused to leave her home. Marcus didn't push. This was her territory, her ground. If they were going to make a stand, this was where it would happen. Priest took the first watch, monitoring the camera feeds from the dining room. Marcus sat with Eleanor in the living room. The lights dimmed the house quiet, except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. "Tell me about Harold," Marcus said. Eleanor smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her since the calf. He was stubborn. Impossible, really. The kind of man who would argue with a thunderstorm and expect to win. "How did you meet?" "At a USO dance in 1968. He'd just come back from his first tour. I was 17, too young to know better." She laughed softly. "He asked me to dance, and I said no. He asked me again, and I said no, again. He asked me a third time, and I told him if he asked one more time I'd pour my drink on his head. What did he do? He asked a fourth time, and I poured my drink on his head, and then I married him 6 months later." Marcus found himself smiling. "He sounds like a good man." "He was the best man I ever knew. Even when he was wrong, he was trying to be right. Even when he failed, he got back up. Even when the world told him to quit, he kept going." Her eyes grew distant. "When he brought Titan home, I thought he'd lost his mind. An old war dog. We were in our 70s. What were we thinking?" "You were thinking that some warriors never retire. They just find new battles." Eleanor nodded slowly. "That's exactly what Harold said. He said Titan had earned his peace, but peace didn't mean doing nothing. It meant protecting something worth protecting." He was right. "I know." She reached out and touched Marcus's hand. "Thank you for being here. For both of us." Before Marcus could respond, Priest's voice cut through the darkness. "We have movement." Marcus was on his feet instantly. He moved to the dining room where Priest was hunched over the laptop. "2 vehicles approaching from the south. Same black sedan plus a pickup truck." "How many men?" "At least 4, maybe more in the truck bed." Marcus felt his training take over his mind, shifting from protector to operator. "Eleanor, go to the bathroom. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you. Marcus, now." She moved without further argument, her wheelchair gliding silently down the hall. Marcus and Priest checked their weapons. They were both armed now, carrying the sidearms that had been in Priest's van. "Rules of engagement?" Priest asked. "They crossed the threshold, they've made their choice." "Works for me." The vehicles stopped at the end of the driveway. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the doors opened. 4 men emerged. 3 from the sedan, 1 from the truck. They moved with the confidence of men who had done this before, who expected no resistance. They were wrong. The first man reached the porch. His hand was on the doorknob when Marcus opened the door. The man's eyes went wide. He'd expected an old woman. He'd expected fear. He hadn't expected a Navy SEAL with dead eyes and a weapon pointed at his chest. "Wrong house," Marcus said quietly. "We're here for the old lady. Crane's business, not yours. Everything that happens here is my business." The man glanced back at his companions, then at Marcus. He was calculating odds, measuring distances. "There's 4 of us," he said. "I count 4 targets," Marcus replied. "Same thing." The standoff lasted 5 seconds. 10. 15. Then the man stepped back. "This isn't over." "No, it's not." The 4 men returned to their vehicles. The engines started. The cars drove away. Priest lowered his weapon. "They'll be back." "I know. And next time they'll bring more." "I know that too." Marcus walked down the hall and knocked on the bathroom door. "Eleanor, it's safe." The door opened. She looked at him with wide, terrified eyes. "What happened? They came. They saw we were ready. They left." "But they'll return." "Yes. So what do we do now?" Marcus thought about the evidence they were gathering about Catherine Walsh, about the Thornton family, and Victor Crane and Derek's 72-hour deadline. "Now we stop playing defense," he said. "Now we go on offense." The next morning, Marcus put on his only decent shirt and drove downtown. The district attorney's office was in a modern building near the courthouse, all glass and steel, and the quiet efficiency of bureaucratic power. He didn't have an appointment. He didn't need one. "I need to speak with D.A. Walsh," he told the receptionist. "It's urgent. It concerns the Thornton family." The receptionist's expression shifted slightly. The Thornton name carried weight here, too. "Ma'am, I'm afraid, tell her it involves Victor Crane and evidence of witness intimidation, elder abuse, and possible conspiracy to commit murder." A pause. "1 moment." 5 minutes later, Marcus was escorted into Catherine Walsh's office. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a handshake that meant business. "Mr. Cole, I'm told you have something I need to see." "I have everything you need to bring down the Thorntons and Victor Crane in one stroke." She leaned back in her chair. "That's a bold claim." "I'm a bold person." He placed a USB drive on her desk. "Video evidence of Derek Thornton assaulting his elderly aunt and attacking her service dog. Audio recordings of him threatening her life. Documentation of his ties to Victor Crane's organization. And surveillance footage of Crane's men stalking her home." Walsh didn't touch the drive. Not yet. "Why bring this to me? Because the local police are compromised. Because the Thornton name buys silence. And because you ran on a platform of cleaning up this city." Marcus met her eyes. "I'm giving you the chance to prove you meant it." Walsh studied him for a long moment. Then she picked up the drive. "If this is real, it's real. Then you just started a war with the most powerful family in San Antonio." "The war already started. I'm just making sure the right side wins." Catherine Walsh stared at the USB drive for a long moment after Marcus finished speaking. Her office was quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before a storm breaks. "You understand what you're asking me to do?" she said finally. "I'm asking you to do your job." "My job?" She almost laughed. "My job is to prosecute criminals. The Thorntons have lawyers who specialize in making prosecutors disappear from public life. They've ended 3 careers in this city that I know of. Then you'll be the 4th, or you'll be the one who finally stopped them." Walsh picked up the drive, turned it over in her hands. How do I know this evidence wasn't manufactured? How do I know you're not working for someone who wants to take down the Thorntons for their own reasons? You don't, but you're going to watch that footage, and then you're going to know the truth. And then you're going to decide what kind of DA you want to be. Marcus stood. My number's on the drive. Call me when you're ready to move. He was at the door when her voice stopped him. Mr. Cole, the men who work for Victor Crane, they don't negotiate. They don't warn. If they decide you're a threat, they'll eliminate you. I know. And you're still going to do this? Marcus turned back to face her. I made a promise to a dog. And to the woman he loves. I don't break promises. He walked out without waiting for a response. The drive back to Eleanor's house took 20 minutes. Marcus used every one of them to think, to plan, to prepare for what he knew was coming. The 72-hour deadline was ticking down. They had maybe 36 hours left, maybe less. Priest met him at the door. How'd it go? She's thinking about it. She'll move, but I don't know how fast. Fast enough. We'll see. Eleanor was in the living room, her phone pressed to her ear. When she saw Marcus, her face transformed. Something between joy and terror. He's awake, she said, her voice breaking. Titan. He's fully awake. The vet says he's responding well. She thinks he might be able to come home in 2 days. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. That's good news. I want to see him. Can we go, please? Marcus looked at Priest, who nodded slightly. I'll hold the fort. Go. The drive to the veterinary clinic was quiet. Eleanor sat in the passenger seat, her hands clasped in her lap, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. Marcus could feel her vibrating with emotion, with hope, with fear. He's going to be okay, Marcus said. You don't know that. I know Titan. He's survived worse than a coward with expensive shoes. Eleanor almost smiled. Harold used to say that about his enemies, that they had expensive shoes and cheap souls. Harold sounds like he was right about most things. He was, except when he wasn't. And then he was impossible. They arrived at the clinic. Marcus helped Eleanor into her wheelchair and pushed her through the doors past the reception desk into the back where the recovery kennels were located. Titan was awake. The Belgian Malinois lifted his head when he heard them coming. His tail began to wag slowly at first, then faster. His eyes were clear now, bright with recognition and love. Oh, my boy. Eleanor wheeled herself to the cage, her hands reaching through the bars. My brave, beautiful boy. Titan whined softly, pushing his nose against her fingers. His tail was wagging so hard his whole body was shaking. Marcus stepped back, watching them. This was the moment. This was what they were fighting for. Not money, not pride, not victory. This. An old woman and her dog reunited. Love surviving everything the world could throw at it. His phone buzzed. Priest. We have a problem. Big problem. Marcus stepped into the hallway, lowering his voice. Talk to me. Derek just showed up at his father's office downtown. I've got eyes on him through the building's security feed. He's screaming at Raymond. Full meltdown. About what? From what I can tell, he's demanding money. Raymond's refusing. Security is moving to escort him out. How does this affect us? Derek just said something interesting. He said, and I quote, "If you won't help me, I'll get it myself. Tonight. Before Crane's deadline." Marcus felt his blood go cold. He's going to move on Eleanor. That's my read. And Marcus, there's more. I traced the black sedan. It's parked 2 blocks from Eleanor's house right now. Engine running. They're coordinating. Looks like it. Derek's going to try to force Eleanor to sign, and Crane's men are going to be there to make sure it happens. Marcus looked back at Eleanor, who was still talking to Titan. Her face lit up with the first real happiness she'd felt in days. "How long do we have?" "Based on Derek's timeline, sunset. Maybe sooner." "Get the house locked down. I'm bringing Eleanor back now." He ended the call and walked back to the cage. Eleanor looked up at him, and her smile faded when she saw his expression. "What's wrong? We need to go, now." "But Titan, Eleanor, now." She understood. She'd been married to a soldier for 50 years. She knew that tone. She pressed her hand against the cage one more time. "I'll be back, baby. I promise. Just a little longer." Titan's eyes followed her as Marcus wheeled her out. The dog knew something was wrong. He could feel it. He tried to stand, his legs shaking, his chest heaving with the effort. "Stay, boy," Marcus said quietly. "Rest. We'll handle this." But Titan's eyes never left the door, even after it closed behind them. The drive back was faster. Marcus pushed the speed limit, his eyes constantly checking the mirrors. No one was following them. Not yet. "Tell me what's happening," Eleanor said. Her voice was steady now, the joy of seeing Titan replaced by something harder. Determination. "Derek's making his move. Tonight. And he's bringing Crane's people with him." "How do you know?" "Because that's what desperate men do. They make bad choices and they make them fast." "What are we going to do?" Marcus pulled into her driveway. Priest was waiting on the porch, his expression grim. "We're going to end this," Marcus said. Inside, Priest had transformed the house into a command center. Cameras on every entry point, motion sensors activated, weapons checked and ready. "I've got 3 probable entry points," Priest said, pulling up the floor plan on his laptop. "Front door, back door, and the window in the guest bedroom. They'll likely split up, try to overwhelm us from multiple directions." "How many men?" "Based on what I've seen, at least 6. Maybe 8, plus Derek." Eleanor was sitting in her wheelchair watching them. "You're talking about a war?" "We're talking about survival," Marcus said. "Yours." "And if they win, if they get past you," Marcus knelt in front of her, just like he had done in her living room 2 days ago. "They won't. But if something happens to me, if something happens to both of us, you lock yourself in the bathroom. You call 911. And you don't come out for anyone. Marcus, promise me." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I promise." The sun began to set, orange and purple and red bleeding across the Texas sky like a wound. Marcus and Priest took their positions. Priest covered the back of the house. Marcus took the front. Eleanor was in the living room, her wheelchair positioned near the hallway that led to the bathroom. The waiting was the hardest part. It always was. In Afghanistan, Marcus had waited for hours in positions that would break a normal person's body and mind. He'd learned to make peace with the waiting, to let his thoughts go quiet, to exist in the space between action and stillness. But this was different. This wasn't a mission, this was personal. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9:30. Then Priest's voice, low and urgent. "Movement. 3 vehicles approaching from the south." Marcus moved to the window. He could see them now, headlights cutting through the darkness. The black sedan, the pickup truck, and a third vehicle, a dark SUV that he hadn't seen before. "How many?" "I count 8. No, wait. 10. They brought reinforcements." 10 men. 2 SEALs. An elderly woman in a wheelchair. The odds were terrible. Marcus had faced worse. The vehicle stopped at the end of the driveway. Doors opened. Men emerged, moving with the coordinated precision of professionals. And in the center of them, his face twisted with desperation and rage, was Derek Thornton. Aunt Eleanor, Derek's voice cut through the night, high and cracking. I know you're in there. I know your soldier friends are with you. But it doesn't matter. You're going to give me what I want or we're all going to die together. Marcus's voice was calm when he responded. Priest, you have the back. Covered. Then let's welcome our guests. Marcus opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. He didn't have his weapon drawn. Not yet. He wanted them to see his face to understand who they were dealing with. That's close enough, he said when Derek and two of Crane's men reached the bottom of the porch steps. You don't give orders here, one of the men said. He was big, thick-necked, with the dead eyes of a professional killer. This is between the family. I'm making it my business. Then you're making a mistake. Derek pushed forward. Where is she? Where's my aunt? Safe, which is more than I can say for you. You think you can protect her? You think you can stop what's coming? Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it, just hysteria. Victor Crane doesn't stop, he doesn't negotiate. He takes what he's owed one way or another. Then he's going to be disappointed. The big man stepped forward. Last chance. Walk away. Take your friend with you. This doesn't have to end badly for you. Marcus looked at him. Really looked at him. He saw the confidence, the certainty that came from years of winning through intimidation and violence. He saw a man who had never faced someone who wasn't afraid. You're right, Marcus said quietly. This doesn't have to end badly, for me. The first shot came from behind them. One of Crane's men positioned near the truck dropped without a sound. Then a second, then a third. Priest's voice crackled in Marcus's earpiece. 3 down, moving to secondary position. Chaos erupted. The remaining men scattered, diving for cover, their weapons coming up. Derek screamed something incoherent and tried to run, but Marcus was already moving. He came off the porch like a force of nature. The big man tried to bring his gun around, but Marcus was faster. A strike to the throat, a twist of the wrist, and the weapon was in Marcus's hands. The big man went down, gasping for breath. 2 more coming around the side, Priest shouted. Marcus spun, fired twice. Both men dropped. Derek was running toward the house, toward the front door that Marcus had left open. Eleanor, sign the papers. Sign them now. Marcus sprinted after him, but a third man stepped into his path, knife drawn. The blade came fast, a slash aimed at Marcus's throat. He ducked, grabbed the man's arm, and used his momentum to flip him onto the ground. A single strike to the temple ended the fight. Inside the house, Derek was screaming. Where are you? Where are you hiding? Marcus burst through the front door. Derek was in the living room, wild-eyed, a gun in his shaking hand. He'd found a weapon somewhere, probably from one of the fallen men. Eleanor was still in her wheelchair, exactly where Marcus had left her. But she wasn't cowering. She was sitting straight, her eyes fixed on Derek with an expression of absolute contempt. Put the gun down, Derek, Marcus said. Derek spun toward him, the weapon wavering. Stay back, I'll shoot her. I swear to God, I'll shoot her. No, you won't. You don't know what I'll do. You don't know what they'll do to me if I don't pay. I know exactly what you'll do. You'll put the gun down and you'll walk out of here and you'll face the consequences of your choices. That's what happens now. Consequences. Derek's laugh was half a sob. You think there are consequences for people like me? My father owns this city. He owns the police, the judges, the newspapers. There are no consequences. There are now. A new sound cut through the night. Sirens, growing louder, getting closer. Derek's face went white. What is that? That's the DA's office, Marcus said. They have everything, the videos, the recordings, your connection to Victor Crane. Your father can't bury this. Nobody can. No. Put the gun down, Derek. But Derek wasn't listening anymore. He was staring at his aunt, and something terrible was happening in his eyes. The fear was changing into something else. Hatred. Pure, undiluted hatred. "This is your fault," he whispered. "Everything. All of it. You could have saved me. You could have just signed the papers. But you had to be righteous. You had to be the perfect little widow with your perfect little dog and your perfect little soldier." "Derek," Eleanor said quietly, "put the gun down." "No. If I'm going to prison, if my life is over, then yours is too. That's fair. That's justice." He raised the gun. Marcus moved, but he was too far away. Even with his speed, even with his training, he couldn't cross the distance in time. Then a shape exploded through the back door. Titan. The Belgian Malinois had escaped from the veterinary clinic. God knows how. Broken ribs, chest tube, heavy medication. None of it mattered. He'd known. Somehow, impossibly, he'd known that his family was in danger. The dog hit Derek like a missile. 60 pounds of fury and loyalty and love driving the man to the ground. The gun flew from Derek's hand, skittering across the floor. Derek screamed. Titan's jaws clamped onto his arm, and he held on just like he'd been trained to do, just like he'd done on 100 missions in Afghanistan. "Call him off! Call him off!" Eleanor's voice cut through the chaos. "Titan, release!" The dog let go. He was panting heavily, his body shaking with the effort of what he'd just done. Blood was seeping from his bandages, but he positioned himself between Eleanor and Derek, his eyes never leaving the threat. Marcus kicked the gun away and pinned Derek to the ground. "Don't move. Don't even breathe." The sirens were right outside now. Red and blue lights flooded through the windows. Priest appeared in the doorway, weapon still drawn. "Police are here, along with some friends from the DA's office. Crane's men. The ones who aren't dead are running. I've got 3 in custody outside." Marcus looked at Derek, who was sobbing on the floor, his expensive clothes soaked with sweat and tears. "It's over," Marcus said. "For all of you." The next hour was chaos of a different kind. Police, paramedics, investigators from Catherine Walsh's office. They took statements, photographed the scene, led away the survivors of Crane's assault team in handcuffs. Derek was arrested. This time, there would be no bail. The charges were too serious, the evidence too overwhelming. Assault, attempted murder, conspiracy, home invasion. His father's lawyers showed up, took one look at the situation, and left without saying a word. Catherine Walsh arrived personally at midnight. She stood in Eleanor's living room, surveying the damage, then turned to Marcus. "You were right," she said. "About everything." "I usually am." "Victor Crane was picked up trying to cross into Mexico 2 hours ago. Federal charges. Your evidence connected him to the Vargas cartel. He's never seeing the outside of a prison again." "And the Thorntons. Raymond Thornton is currently being questioned about his knowledge of his son's activities and his connections to Crane's organization. The FBI is involved now. The family's influence in this city is finished." Eleanor sat in her wheelchair, Titan lying at her feet. The dog had been treated by the paramedics, his bandages replaced, but he refused to leave her side. His eyes were tired, but his tail wagged weakly whenever she touched him. "Mrs. Thornton," Walsh said, approaching her, "I'm sorry for what you've been through, and I'm sorry that the system failed you for so long." "The system didn't save me," Eleanor said quietly. "They did." She looked at Marcus, then at Priest, then back at Titan. "My husband always said that when the wolves come, you need better wolves on your side." Walsh nodded slowly. "Your husband was a wise man." "Yes, he was." After everyone left, after the police tape was removed, and the investigators finished their work, the house fell silent. Marcus sat on the porch, watching the first light of dawn creep over the horizon. He was exhausted, his body aching from the night's violence, but his mind was quiet for the first time in days. Priest came out and sat beside him. Hell of a night. Yeah. You could have died in there. We both could have. I know. Was it worth it? Marcus looked through the window. Eleanor was asleep on the couch, her hand resting on Titan's head. The dog was asleep too, his breathing steady, his body finally at peace. Yeah, Marcus said. It was worth it. So what now? Marcus thought about that question. He thought about his leave, about the train he'd missed, about the life he'd been trying to return to. Now we make sure they're really safe, he said, and then we figure out the rest. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He opened it. 2 words. Thank you. It was from Raymond Thornton's personal phone. The man whose empire was crumbling, whose son was going to prison, whose entire world was falling apart. Marcus stared at the message for a long moment. Then he deleted it. Some things didn't deserve a response. The week that followed the raid moved like a fever dream. Marcus barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Derek's gun rising toward Eleanor, saw the flash of Titan's body launching through that door. He'd replayed that moment 1,000 times, measuring the distance, calculating the trajectory. If Titan hadn't come, if the dog had been 1 second slower, Eleanor would be dead. But she wasn't dead. She was alive, sitting in her living room, drinking tea like the world hadn't almost ended 3 nights ago. You're staring at me again, she said without looking up. Just making sure you're real. I'm real, Marcus. I'm old, I'm tired, and I'm very much in need of a shower. But I'm real. Priest had left 2 days ago, called back to Virginia for a classified briefing. Before he went, he'd pulled Marcus aside. You know this isn't over, Priest had said. The Thorntons have resources, friends in high places. Derek might be going down, but his father still has lawyers. I know. So what's your play? Marcus had looked at the house at Eleanor's silhouette in the window. I stay until I know she's safe. Really safe. And then I figure out what comes next. Priest had nodded slowly. You've changed, brother. This mission changed you. Maybe. No, maybe about it. I've known you for 12 years. You were always the one who kept moving, never looked back, never let anything stick. But this... He'd gestured toward the house. This stuck. Marcus hadn't argued. Because Priest was right. Now, 3 days later, Marcus sat at Eleanor's kitchen table, watching her make breakfast. Titan lay on a thick blanket in the corner, his breathing steady, his eyes tracking every movement in the room. The dog was healing faster than anyone expected, but the vet had been clear no more heroics. His body couldn't take it. The lawyer called again, Eleanor said, cracking eggs into a pan. Mr. Henderson, he wants to meet this afternoon. About what? The estate papers. The new will. All the things I should have done years ago, but kept putting off. She paused, spatula in hand. He says with Derek's arrest, the family's claim to Harold's estate is finished. Raymond can't touch it. Nobody can. That's good news. Is it? She turned to face him. I used to think money was security. Harold always said it was just a tool no better than the person using it. I never understood what he meant until now. What do you understand now? That security isn't money. It's not locks or cameras or legal documents. She looked at Titan, then back at Marcus. It's people. The right people, the ones who show up when everything falls apart. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. He'd spent his entire adult life being trained not to form attachments, not to let anyone get too close. The mission always came first. The team always came first. Individual connections were liabilities. But sitting in this kitchen, watching this old woman make breakfast for a dog and a soldier she barely knew, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt home. His phone rang. Catherine Walsh. "Cole, we need to talk. Can you come downtown? When?" "Now. There's been a development." The DA's office was busier than Marcus had ever seen it. Assistants rushed through corridors, phones rang constantly, and the air crackled with the energy of something big happening. Walsh met him in her office, but she wasn't alone. A man in a dark suit sat in one of the visitor chairs, his posture rigid, his eyes assessing Marcus with the clinical detachment of a professional. "Mr. Cole, this is Special Agent Thomas Reed, FBI." Marcus shook Reed's hand. The grip was firm, controlled. "What's the Bureau's interest?" "Victor Crane," Reed said. "His arrest opened doors we've been trying to unlock for 5 years. The Vargas cartel connection, money laundering through Thornton Maritime, shell companies in 3 countries. That sounds like a lot of paperwork." "It's more than paperwork, Mr. Cole. It's the biggest RICO case in Texas history, and your evidence made it possible." Marcus looked at Walsh. "What does this mean for Eleanor?" "It means she's protected," Walsh said. "Officially, the FBI has designated her a material witness in a federal investigation. Anyone who tries to contact her, threaten her, or intimidate her will be dealing with federal charges. And Derek, arraignment is tomorrow. State charges plus federal conspiracy counts. His lawyers tried to negotiate a plea, but I refused." "Why?" Walsh leaned forward. "Because some crimes don't deserve mercy. What he did to that woman, what he did to that dog, was evil. Pure evil. And I want him to face it. All of it." Reed stood. "Mr. Cole, there's something else. We've been reviewing your background, your service record." Marcus felt his guard go up. "What about it?" "It's impressive. 12 years, multiple deployments, commendations we can't even access without additional clearance." Reed paused. "We could use someone like you." "I'm not looking for a job. I'm not offering one. Not yet. But when this case concludes, if you're interested in doing more work like this, legitimate work with full federal authority, give me a call." He handed Marcus a card. "The Bureau has a task force focused on elder abuse and financial exploitation. Your skills would be valuable." Marcus took the card, but said nothing. After Reed left, Walsh studied Marcus for a long moment. "You could do a lot of good, you know. With what you know. What you can do. I've spent my whole life doing what other people told me was good. Following orders. Completing missions. I'm not sure I know what good means anymore." "Then maybe it's time to find out." The arraignment was held in a federal courtroom downtown. Marcus attended, sitting in the back row, watching as Derek Thornton was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit and shackles. He looked different. Smaller, somehow. The desperation that had driven him to violence was gone, replaced by something empty. Hollow. He was a shell of the man who had slapped his aunt in a cafe just 1 week ago. Raymond Thornton was there too, sitting in the front row behind the defense table. His face was a mask of controlled fury. He never looked at his son. The charges were read. Assault on an elderly person. Felony animal cruelty. Attempted murder. Conspiracy to commit extortion. Witness intimidation. Each count landed like a hammer blow. Derek's lawyer, a silver-haired man in a suit that cost more than most people's cars, tried to argue for bail. "Your Honor, my client has deep ties to this community. His family has been a pillar of San Antonio for generations. He poses no flight risk." "Counselor," the judge interrupted, "your client led an armed assault on an elderly woman's home. He pointed a gun at her and threatened to kill her. He has documented connections to organized crime. Motion for bail is denied." Derek's face crumpled. For just a moment, he looked like the boy Eleanor had described, the one who used to help Harold in the garden, who told secrets to a dog. Then the mask came back, and he was led away. Marcus waited until the courtroom emptied. He was about to leave when a voice stopped him. "Mr. Cole." Raymond Thornton stood in the aisle, his hands clasped in front of him, his posture rigid with the effort of maintaining control. "Mr. Thornton, I want you to know that I hold no ill will toward you. I don't care what you hold, Mr. Thornton. My son made choices, bad choices. He has to face the consequences of those choices. I understand that." Raymond's jaw tightened. "But Eleanor, she was my brother's wife. She was family. She still is family. The difference is now she's protected from your family. I never wanted to hurt her. No, you just wanted to control her, control the money, control the narrative. When you couldn't do that, you looked the other way while your son tried to destroy her." Raymond's eyes flashed. "I am not responsible for Derek's actions. You're responsible for the man he became. You created him. Your coldness, your cruelty, your obsession with legacy over love. That's what made him. That's what broke him. You don't know anything about my family. I know enough. I know that Eleanor spent 50 years watching your brother be the man you never could be. I know that Harold died surrounded by love, and you'll die surrounded by lawyers. I know that the Thornton name used to mean something in this city, and now it means shame." Raymond's face went pale. His hands trembled at his sides. "You think you've won," he said quietly. "You think this is over. But the Thorntons have survived worse than this. We'll rebuild. You'll do whatever you want, Mr. Thornton, but you'll do it without Eleanor, without her money, without any claim to your brother's memory." Marcus stepped closer. "And if you ever come near her again, I will end everything you have left. That's not a threat. It's a fact." He walked out without looking back. Eleanor was waiting at the house when he returned. She'd heard the news about the arraignment through Mr. Henderson. He really denied bail. He did. So it's real. It's actually happening. It's happening. She sat down slowly, her hands folded in her lap. Titan limped over and rested his head on her knee. "I keep waiting to wake up," she said. "I keep waiting for someone to tell me this was all a dream, that Derek is still out there, that the nightmare isn't over." "It's over, Eleanor, not the healing. That's going to take time. But the danger that's done." She looked at him with those sharp, knowing eyes. "And what about you? What happens to you now?" "I don't know. Your leave must be almost over." "It is. So you'll go back. To your unit. To your missions." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He'd been thinking about that question for days. The answer should have been simple. He was a SEAL. That was his identity, his purpose, his reason for existing. But something had shifted. Something fundamental. "I've been offered a position," he said finally. "With the FBI. A task force that focuses on protecting people like you. Elderly victims. Financial exploitation. The kind of cases that slip through the cracks." Eleanor's eyebrows rose. "That doesn't sound like combat." "It's not. It's different. Slower. More complicated. More human." He met her eyes. "Yeah. More human." "And is that what you want?" "I don't know what I want anymore. I used to know. I used to know exactly who I was and what I was supposed to do. But this week," he shook his head, "this week changed something." Eleanor reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were frail, spotted with age, but her grip was strong. "Harold used to say that the hardest mission is the one that makes you question everything you thought you knew. He said that's how you grow, not by winning, but by being challenged. by being broken and put back together in a new shape. Your husband was a philosopher. He was a soldier, just like you. And he spent the last years of his life trying to figure out who he was when the fighting was done. She squeezed his hand. You'll figure it out too. I have faith in you. The following days brought a steady stream of developments. D.A. Walsh held a press conference announcing the charges against Derek and the federal case against Victor Crane. She mentioned Eleanor only as an elderly victim, but made clear that the case represented a turning point in San Antonio's fight against corruption. The Thornton family issued a statement distancing themselves from Derek, calling his actions the tragic result of personal struggles, and promising to cooperate fully with investigators. Raymond Thornton resigned from 3 corporate boards and retreated from public life. Victor Crane, facing life in prison, began negotiating with federal prosecutors. He offered names, dates, account numbers. The Vargas cartel connection unraveled day by day, leading to arrests in 4 states and 2 foreign countries. And through it all, Marcus stayed. He told himself it was temporary. He told himself he was just making sure the situation was truly stable. But every morning when he woke up in the guest room of Eleanor's house and went downstairs to find her making coffee, he knew the truth. He didn't want to leave. A week after the arraignment, Eleanor asked him to drive her somewhere special. She wouldn't say where, just that it was important. They drove for 20 minutes, leaving the city behind, entering a quiet area where the road wound through old oak trees and well-maintained grounds. Marcus realized where they were going before they arrived. A cemetery. Military section. Harold Thornton's grave was marked with a simple headstone. Name, rank, dates of service. The flag holder beside it held a small American flag that fluttered in the breeze. Eleanor sat in her wheelchair, looking at the stone for a long moment. I haven't been here since the funeral, she said quietly. 2 years. I couldn't face it. Couldn't face the reality of it. Why now? Because now I have something to tell him. She wheeled herself closer to the stone, her voice dropping to a whisper. Harold, it's me. I know you know. You probably saw the whole thing wherever you are, probably laughing at me for being so stubborn. A small smile touched her lips. You were right about Titan. He's still protecting me. And you were right about the wolves. She paused, gathering herself. Someone came, Harold. Someone you would have loved. He's one of yours, you know. One of the boys who served with Titan. He showed up out of nowhere like you always said the right people do. And he stayed. He stayed when everyone else would have walked away. She turned to look at Marcus, her eyes bright with tears. Thank you for sending him to me. Marcus felt something break open in his chest. He'd been trained to suppress emotion, to compartmentalize, to stay mission-focused. But standing in this cemetery, watching this woman talk to her dead husband about him, he couldn't hold it back anymore. He knelt beside her wheelchair, his hand finding hers. I didn't come here by accident, Eleanor. I came because Titan was my partner. I came because I wanted to see if he was okay, if the person taking care of him was worthy of him. And am I worthy? You're more than worthy. You're the strongest person I've ever met. She laughed softly, wiping her eyes. I'm an old woman in a wheelchair who can barely make breakfast without getting tired. Strength isn't about what your body can do. It's about what you choose when everything's falling apart. And you chose courage. You chose to fight. You chose not to surrender, even when it would have been easier. I had help. We all need help. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. They sat together in silence, the Texas wind rustling through the trees, the flag on Harold's grave snapping softly. He would have liked you, Eleanor said finally. He would have called you one of the good ones. I'm trying to be. I know. She squeezed his hand. And that's why I need to ask you something. Anything. Stay. The word hung in the air between them. Not forever, she continued. Just until I know what my life looks like without fear. Until Titan is strong enough to protect me on his own again. Until I can sleep through the night without waking up screaming. Marcus looked at Harold's grave. He thought about his team, his missions, the life he'd built over 12 years. He thought about the FBI offer about Agent Reed's card still sitting in his wallet. And he thought about this woman who had shown him something he didn't know he needed. A reason to stay. A reason to stop running. I'll stay, he said, as long as you need me. You mean that? I mean everything I say, Eleanor. I thought you knew that by now. She smiled, and for the first time since Marcus had met her, she looked at peace. Harold always said the best soldiers aren't the ones who fight the hardest. They're the ones who know when to stop fighting and start building. She looked at the grave, then back at Marcus. Maybe it's time to build something. They drove home as the sun began to set. Titan was waiting at the door when they arrived, his tail wagging, his eyes bright. He'd been improving every day, defying the vet's predictions, proving that stubbornness was a survival skill. Marcus helped Eleanor inside and settled her in her favorite chair. Titan immediately took his position at her feet. There's leftover casserole in the fridge, she said. Mrs. Patterson from next door keeps bringing food. I think she has a crush on you. Mrs. Patterson is 87 years old. Age is just a number, Marcus. You should know that by now. He shook his head, but he was smiling. His phone buzzed. A text from Priest. Heard about the FBI offer. You considering it? Marcus typed back, thinking about it. Good. You'd be wasted going back to the teams. You've got bigger things ahead. How do you know? Because I know you, brother. You're not the same man who got on that train to Charleston. You found something. Don't let it go. Marcus put the phone down and looked at Eleanor, who had already fallen asleep in her chair. Titan's head rested on her lap, his eyes half closed, his breathing slow and peaceful. Two warriors, finally, at rest. Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the Texas night. Somewhere out there, Derek Thornton sat in a cell facing the consequences of his choices. Victor Crane was bargaining for his life. Raymond Thornton was watching his empire crumble. And here in this small house, with an old woman and an older dog, Marcus Cole was finding something he thought he'd lost forever. A purpose that wasn't measured in body counts. A mission that didn't end in extraction. A family. 3 months passed like water through open fingers. Marcus had stopped counting the days somewhere around week 6. The rhythm of his new life had become so natural, so familiar, that he couldn't remember what it felt like to wake up in barracks, to answer to commanding officers, to measure his worth in completed missions. He woke now to the smell of coffee and the sound of Titan's nails clicking on hardwood floors. He woke to Eleanor's voice humming old songs from a time before he was born. He woke to peace. It was strange, this peace. It sat uneasy on his shoulders at first like a uniform that didn't quite fit. But day by day it settled. It became his. You're thinking too loud again, Eleanor said from the kitchen doorway. Marcus looked up from his coffee. How can you tell? Your forehead does this thing, like you're trying to solve a math problem that doesn't have an answer. I was just remembering. Good memories or bad ones? Both, mostly good. She wheeled herself to the table, a skill she'd mastered with remarkable speed since getting her new motorized chair. Insurance had covered it along with the new van that sat gleaming in the driveway. Today's the day, isn't it? She asked. Marcus nodded. The sentencing hearing, 10 o'clock. Are you going? Do you want me to? Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Titan padded over and laid his head on her lap as if sensing her thoughts. I want to go, she said finally. I want to see it end. Really end. Marcus set down his coffee. Are you sure you don't have to put yourself through that? I know I don't have to, but I need to. She met his eyes. For 50 years I let other people handle the hard things. Harold took care of the bills, the repairs, the confrontations. When he died, Derek started circling and I hid. I pretended it wasn't happening. That's not weakness, Eleanor. That's survival. Maybe. But it's not living. And I want to live Marcus. Whatever time I have left, I want to spend it standing up, not hiding. He understood. He'd spent his whole career learning that the hardest battles weren't the ones with bullets. They were the ones where you had to face what scared you most and refuse to look away. Then we'll go together, he said. All three of us. Eleanor smiled. Titan might have trouble with the courthouse steps. Then I'll carry him. He weighs 60 pounds. I've carried heavier. The courthouse was crowded when they arrived. News vans lined the street. Reporters clustered on the steps, their cameras ready, their questions sharp. Mr. Cole! Mr. Cole! Can you comment on your role in the Thornton case? Mrs. Thornton, how do you feel about facing your nephew today? Marcus positioned himself between Eleanor and the press, his body a shield. No comment. Is it true you're joining the FBI? Is it true the Thornton family offered you money to drop the case? No comment. They made it through the doors, past security, into the relative quiet of the courthouse interior. Eleanor's hands were shaking slightly on the wheelchair controls. You okay? Marcus asked. I will be. Just give me a minute. They found seats in the gallery near the back. Marcus had chosen the position deliberately, giving them a clear view of both exits and the entire room. Old habits. Catherine Walsh was already at the prosecution table conferring with her team. She caught Marcus's eye and nodded once. Then the defense team entered. 3 lawyers in expensive suits, their faces arranged in careful neutrality. And behind them, escorted by 2 federal marshals, Derek Thornton. Eleanor's breath caught. Derek looked different. 3 months in federal custody had stripped away the last traces of arrogance. His expensive haircut had grown out. His face was pale thin, marked by sleepless nights. He looked like what he was, a broken man facing the consequences of his choices. His eyes swept the gallery and found Eleanor. For just a moment, something flickered in his expression. Shame. Regret. Fear. Then it was gone, replaced by that empty mask. All rise. The Honorable Judge Patricia Mendoza presiding. The courtroom stood. Marcus helped Eleanor position her wheelchair, his hand steady on her shoulder. Judge Mendoza was a woman in her 60s, with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. She'd been assigned the case after 3 other judges recused themselves due to Thornton family connections. Her reputation was incorruptible. Be seated. We are here today for the sentencing of Derek Raymond Thornton, who has been found guilty of the following charges: aggravated assault on an elderly person, felony animal cruelty, attempted murder in the 2nd-degree conspiracy to commit extortion, and witness intimidation. The words fell like hammer blows. Each charge a nail in Derek's coffin. Before sentencing is pronounced, the court will hear victim impact statements. Mrs. Eleanor Thornton, please approach. Eleanor's hands tightened on her wheelchair controls. Marcus leaned down. You don't have to do this. Yes, she said quietly. I do. She wheeled herself down the center aisle. Every eye in the room followed her. The cameras in the gallery whirred softly. She stopped in front of the podium facing the judge, but positioned so Derek could see her clearly. "Your Honor," she began, her voice thin but steady. "I've been married to the Thornton name for 50 years. My husband, Harold, was the kindest man I ever knew. He served his country in Vietnam. He came home broken in ways nobody could see, and he spent the rest of his life putting himself back together. He taught me that strength isn't about power. It's about how you treat the people who can't fight back." She paused, gathering herself. Titan, who Marcus had been allowed to bring in as an emotional support animal, whined softly from his position at Marcus's feet. "Derek is my nephew. I watched him grow up. I saw the boy he used to be before the gambling, before the drugs, before the desperation twisted him into something unrecognizable. Part of me still loves that boy. Part of me always will." Derek's head dropped. His shoulders began to shake. "But the man who attacked me in that cafe, the man who kicked my dog and threw me from my wheelchair, the man who came to my home with armed criminals and pointed a gun at my face." Her voice hardened. "That man is not the boy I loved. That man made choices. Cruel choices. Cowardly choices. And choices have consequences." She turned slightly, looking directly at Derek for the first time. "I forgive you, Derek. Not because you deserve it, but because carrying hatred is too heavy for an old woman like me. I forgive you, and I let you go. But forgiveness doesn't mean freedom from consequences. It means I refuse to let your darkness live inside me anymore." She turned back to the judge. "Your Honor, I ask only for justice. True justice. The kind that protects the next elderly woman who can't protect herself. The kind that tells the world that money and family names don't place anyone above the law." She wheeled herself back to her seat. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Marcus took her hand. It was trembling, but her eyes were dry. "You did good," he whispered. "I did what Harold would have wanted." Judge Mendoza reviewed her notes for several minutes. The tension in the room built with each passing second. "Mr. Thornton," she finally said, "please rise." Derek stood his legs, visibly unsteady. "I have reviewed the facts of this case extensively. I have considered the severity of your crimes, your lack of prior criminal record, your family circumstances, and the impact of your actions on your victim." She paused. "What strikes me most is not the violence itself, though it was egregious. It is the premeditation, the conspiracy, the willingness to involve dangerous criminals in a scheme to terrorize and rob an elderly woman who had done nothing but refuse to enable your self-destruction." Derek flinched, as if struck. "You had every advantage in life, Mr. Thornton. Wealth, education, family connections, and you used those advantages to prey upon the vulnerable. You used your aunt's love against her. You exploited your family name to avoid consequences for years, and when that stopped working, you resorted to violence." "Your Honor," one of Derek's lawyers began. "I'm not finished, Counselor." The lawyer sat down. "For the charge of aggravated assault on an elderly person, I sentence you to 15 years in federal prison. For felony animal cruelty, I sentence you to 5 years to run consecutively. For attempted murder in the second degree, I sentence you to 25 years to run consecutively. For conspiracy to commit extortion, 10 years consecutive. For witness intimidation, 5 years consecutive." The numbers added up in Marcus's head. 60 years. Derek would be in his 90s before he was eligible for parole. "Additionally, I am ordering full restitution for all medical expenses, property damage, and emotional distress suffered by Mrs. Thornton. You are prohibited from any contact with her, direct or indirect, for the remainder of your natural life." Derek swayed. One of the marshals stepped closer, ready to catch him. "Do you have anything to say, Mr. Thornton?" For a long moment, Derek said nothing. Then slowly, he turned to face Eleanor. "I'm sorry, Aunt Ellie." His voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry." Eleanor didn't respond. She just looked at him with those sharp, knowing eyes, and Marcus could see her processing this moment, deciding what it meant, choosing how to carry it forward. Finally, she nodded. Just once. An acknowledgement, not an absolution. Derek was led away. The courtroom erupted in murmured conversations. Reporters scrambled for the doors, and Eleanor Thornton sat quietly in her wheelchair, her hand in Marcus's, her dog at her feet, finally free. The days that followed the sentencing were filled with a strange lightness. Eleanor laughed more. She slept better. She spent hours in her garden, something she hadn't done since Harold's death. Her hands in the dirt, her face turned toward the sun. Titan's recovery continued to amaze everyone. The vet called him a miracle. Marcus called him stubborn. Eleanor called him her guardian angel. "He gets that from you," she told Marcus one evening, watching Titan chase a butterfly across the yard. "The stubbornness. I prefer to call it determination." "Of course you do." Marcus had made his decision about the FBI offer 3 weeks after the sentencing. He'd called Agent Reed, had a long conversation about expectations and possibilities, and agreed to join the task force on a trial basis. "You're sure about this?" Priest had asked when Marcus told him. "No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's how all the best decisions start." The work was different from anything Marcus had known. Slower, more frustrating. Cases built over months instead of minutes. Evidence chains and legal procedures instead of direct action. Sometimes he missed the clarity of combat, the simple binary of mission success or failure. But then he'd visit a nursing home where someone's grandmother had been swindled out of her life savings. He'd interview a veteran whose children had exploited his dementia to drain his accounts. He'd see the fear in their eyes, the same fear he'd seen in Eleanor's, and he'd remember why he'd made this choice. Because some enemies don't carry weapons. They carry contracts and lies and false smiles. And someone needs to stop them. Autumn arrived in San Antonio with a sudden cooling of the air and a transformation of the leaves. Eleanor announced that she was organizing a fundraiser. "A fundraiser for what?" Marcus asked. "For veterans, for military dogs, for all the Titans out there who served their country and now need someone to serve them." She pulled out a folder, thick with notes and plans. "I've already talked to Mr. Henderson. Harold's Trust can seed the foundation. We just need to raise awareness." "You've been planning this." "I've been planning this for 2 years. I just never had the courage to do it. Until now." The fundraiser was held on a crisp November evening at the Pearl District, just a few hundred yards from the cafe where everything had begun. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. Over 200 people attended, veterans from every branch of service, dog handlers from across the state, local politicians who wanted their photos taken with the woman who had brought down the Thornton Empire. And at the center of it all, Eleanor Thornton, looking more alive than Marcus had ever seen her. Titan was the guest of honor. He wore a ceremonial vest displaying his service medals, his graying muzzle lifted with quiet dignity. Children clustered around him, their hands gentle, their voices awed. "He's beautiful," a little girl whispered, her fingers buried in his fur. "He's a hero," Eleanor told her. "He served 3 tours in Afghanistan. He saved soldiers' lives. And then he saved mine." Marcus watched from the edge of the crowd, content to remain in the shadows. This was Eleanor's night, her victory. A hand touched his arm. priest dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. "You clean up nice," Marcus said. "I try. You look like you're about to run an op." Old habits. They stood together watching the crowd, the laughter, the connections being made. "You did good, brother," priest said quietly. "All those years, all those missions, and this is the one that mattered most. This one was different. They're all different. That's what makes them worth doing." A microphone squealed. Eleanor was at the podium, the crowd falling silent around her. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "A year ago I was a widow, hiding in her house, afraid of her own family waiting to die. I had given up on life. I had given up on hope. I had given up on the idea that there were still good people in the world who would fight for someone like me." She paused, her eyes finding Marcus in the crowd. And then a stranger walked into a cafe, a stranger who saw something wrong and refused to look away, a stranger who gave up his own plans, his own safety, his own peace of mind to protect an old woman he'd never met, and a dog he hadn't seen in years. Marcus felt the weight of 200 pairs of eyes turning toward him. He wanted to disappear. Marcus Cole is a Navy SEAL, but that's not why he saved me. He saved me because he's a good man, because goodness is a choice made again and again in moments big and small, because heroism isn't about medals or missions. It's about showing up when someone needs you and refusing to leave until they're safe. She lifted her glass. To Marcus, to Titan, to Harold, who brought them together, and to all the warriors, human and canine, who serve and protect and sacrifice so that people like me can sleep safely at night. The crowd raised their glasses. Marcus felt something burning in his eyes and told himself it was just the November wind. Later, after the speeches and the donations and the endless handshakes, Marcus found Eleanor in a quiet corner, Titan lying at her feet. "That was quite a speech," he said. "It was the truth. You didn't have to single me out." "Yes, I did. Because people need to know that heroes exist. Real heroes. Not the ones in movies, but the ones who show up in cafes and refuse to walk away." She reached up and touched his face. "Harold would be so proud of you." "I just did what anyone would do." "No. You did what almost no one does. You chose to care." Marcus knelt beside her wheelchair, bringing himself to her level. "Eleanor, you know I can't stay forever. The job, the task force, they need me in different places." "I know. But I want you to understand something. You changed me. This place, this mission, you and Titan, you changed who I am. I came here looking for a piece of my past, and I found something I didn't know I needed. A future. A purpose that isn't measured in body counts." "You found family," Eleanor said simply. "Yeah." His voice caught. "I found family." She took his hand, her grip stronger than he expected. Family doesn't mean staying in one place. It means knowing that wherever you go, there's somewhere you belong, somewhere you're loved, somewhere that will always welcome you home. Is that what this is home? This is home, Marcus, for you, for Titan, for anyone who needs it. The door is always open, the coffee is always hot, and there's always a chair at the table. Marcus couldn't speak. 12 years of training had taught him to suppress emotion, to compartmentalize, to function under any circumstances. But this woman, this moment, broke through every defense he had. He hugged her, gently, carefully aware of how fragile she seemed and how strong she actually was. "Thank you," he whispered. "No, Marcus. Thank you." Titan's tail thumped against the floor. He raised his head and pushed his nose against Marcus's arm, as if adding his own approval. 6 months later, Marcus Cole stood on the steps of the federal courthouse in Houston, having just helped secure a conviction in a case involving a network of elder abuse spanning 3 states. 17 people prosecuted. Over $4 million recovered. 37 victims finally getting justice. His phone buzzed. A video call from Eleanor. He accepted, and her face filled the screen, beaming. "I saw the news," she said. "You did it. We did it. The whole team. Don't be modest. It doesn't suit you." In the background, Marcus could see Titan lying on his favorite blanket. The dog's muzzle was almost entirely gray now, but his eyes were bright and alert. "How is he?" Marcus asked. "Spoiled, fat, happy, everything he deserves." "And you?" "The same, minus the fat part. Mrs. Patterson's casseroles are terrible for my waistline." Marcus laughed. "I'll be there next weekend. The task force is giving me some time off." "Good. The guest room is ready. And Marcus, yeah. I'm proud of you. Harold is proud of you. Don't ever forget that." He ended the call and stood for a moment on the courthouse steps, watching the city move around him. People rushing to appointments, cars honking, the endless noise of civilization. Somewhere in San Antonio, an old woman and her dog were waiting for him. Somewhere there was a place where he belonged. A year ago, he'd been a soldier without a mission, a warrior without a war, a man who measured his worth in enemies defeated. Now he was something different, something more. He was a protector, a guardian, a son to a woman who needed one, and a brother to a dog who had taught him about loyalty. He was Marcus Cole. And he was finally home. The mission changes, the purpose remains. Protect the innocent. Stand for the voiceless. Fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. This is the warrior's code. This is the human code. This is what separates us from the darkness. If this story of courage and redemption touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel. We are dedicated to finding and sharing stories that remind us of the good that still exists in this world. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. You never know who might be sitting alone, afraid, waiting for someone to show up. And please comment below. Tell us what part of this story moved you most. Tell us about the heroes in your own life. We read every single comment, and your words mean everything to us. May God bless you and your family. May He give you the courage to show up when others walk away. May He grant you the wisdom to see the need in others' eyes. And may He send you the Marcus Coles of this world when you need them most. If you receive this blessing, please write Amen in the comments below. Because in a world full of people who look away, the ones who choose to see are the ones who change everything.